Hey y'all, welcome back. If you don't know me, I'm TK, and this channel is all about doing a little bit of makeup, doing a little bit of food, and having a lot of fun. And if that sounds like a good time to you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave me a like on this video. Today is Foodie Friday. And once again, we are taking a dish down south. So I saw this video on TikTok. Hey y'all, I had to mute this video because he has music in the background that is absolute fire music, but it's gonna get me a copyright claim on this video. So basically what he's making here is a Philadelphia cheesesteak potato. He does a double baked potato with the cheese in it. Then he makes the steak, the onions, adds a little more cheese because, like, why not? And then he puts that on top of the potato. He's One Stop Chop over on TikTok, so go follow him. I thought, yeah, we're kind of the queen of over-the-top baked potatoes. I think I could do that. So today we are going to take this Philly cheesesteak baked potato, but we're gonna take it down south. If that sounds like fun to you, stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, hey, let's just always get faded. Let's just always get faded. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so how are we gonna do this? Well, we get 4 big Idaho potatoes. We've got some giant russet potatoes here. They're pretty big, so they're going to go into a 350 degree oven for about an hour to an hour and a half. We want them to be baked all the way through with nice mushy insides. All right, so the best way to find out if a potato is done is whether they're fork tender. That fork just went right in there. These have been in a little bit longer than I think I would have liked, but they're going to be fine because they're so big. Next, we're gonna cut them in half and scoop out their guts. No, this is not a Halloween episode. So the next thing that we are going to do, we're gonna make some stovetop Southern macaroni and cheese to stuff inside those potatoes. Okay, so to make this macaroni and cheese, what we're starting with here is some salt, a little bit of water. We've got basically a pound of macaroni by weight. We have a pound of sharp cheddar cheese. It doesn't matter what brand, honestly. One is not usually better than another. We've got real butter. We're only going to use about half a stick. And do not clock me, we have Velveeta. And here's why we have Velveeta. We could do this by making a roux, which is flour and butter. And then that thickens everything up. And then we add some milk and we add the cheese in. And I know this sounds weird for a white girl to say, but the flour and the milk roux, to me, is too bland. It needs more seasoning. And also, you can brown the roux, but then it gives it a weird earthy flavor that I don't like with cheese. So Velveeta brings the roux, the thickening agent, and it brings a cheese flavor because it has the cheese cultures and enzymes in it, and it brings that to the party without doing flour and butter. That's why I chose Velveeta. Velveeta is what I'm using in place of my roux. All right, so water's hot. We're gonna pour the macaroni in, and that's gonna get to boiling. So as you know, pasta usually has a couple different times that you can use on it. You can do like 9 minutes for like an al dente pasta, but I kind of want this to be a little bit more soft. So I'm gonna go with the full 11 minutes on this. Okay, we're gonna work on our potatoes. I'm really only gonna do one. We have all these beautiful potatoes here. I'm gonna do one for the sake of what we're doing right now. And I think this one's gonna be the one. He's nice and floofy. Oh, I should do them all. I should do them all, but no one's here to eat them. So we're not. And I think we probably won't eat them this way. So what we want to do with this potato is we want to cut it in half. And we want to scoop its guts out. There it is. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm trying to leave a bit, I'm trying to stay in camera. So what I'm trying to do is leave a little bit of a margin of potato in there. So I'm not trying to go all the way to the edge. And I'm also trying to not go all the way to the bottom, which is harder than not going to the edge because you can see the edge, you can't see the bottom. You sort of have to know where your edge is, where your bottom is. Okay, so kind of like that, where we have a little bit of potato left in there. If you're wondering why I'm using the paper towel, it's because these potatoes are hot and the paper towel acts like a really nice insulator while letting me hold the potato. So there we go. Now the next step for these, which you wouldn't imagine, is going to be going back into the broiler. We're going to brush some butter in there, so let me get some melted butter. So I've got this about 3 tablespoons of butter in there. So melting butter in the microwave. It just goes everywhere, doesn't it? It doesn't have to. Just put a little paper towel kind of stuff down in there and it'll melt without spraying all over your microwave. See? Paper towel's clean because the butter melts down below the level of paper towel. All right, so I'm just taking a brush and I'm brushing the inside of that potato with some butter. I want to make sure that I get enough in there because we're going to need that butter. Sort of seal, we're going to seal that potato by broiling it again. It's going to kind of fry the inside because fried potatoes and macaroni. If you can think of something more southern, let me know. All right, this is going back under a broiler. Unlike the guy who did the Philly cheesesteak thing, we're not putting those potatoes back into our potato. I'm going to use those and make some mashed potatoes or I don't know, maybe some fried potato cakes, but they're not going back in these shells. So let's go ahead and we'll prep the rest of the stuff that we're going to need when that macaroni is done. I'm going to be using some Velveeta. You know, I don't do a whole fancy thing with breadcrumbs and baking and milk and all the stuff. Some people like that kind of weird southern baked macaroni, but for me, you can't just put cheese cubes and milk into a number 12 pan and bake it with some macaroni and expect that to come out creamy. It doesn't work. The milk curdles up and just makes big curds and it's disgusting. It's really disgusting. I'm gonna cut off about 6 ounces of this Velveeta, just like that. And I'm gonna sort of just chop it up into some cubes here. So we should turn the heat down on that pan to like a medium low. And we're just gonna chop this Velveeta real quick because we wanna get small pieces in there so that they'll melt evenly. And now we're gonna go put them in that hot pan. And we're just putting them in there. No liquid. We're not don't have liquid in there. All right, so you can see that Velveeta is starting to melt. I'm gonna melt a little bit more butter. Oh, we've got that pretty soft in there. Okay, you can see it's starting to melt. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put our macaroni back in because that's gonna help melt it further. I know this seems like a weird, messy step, but trust me, this brings so much more flavor than doing a typical roux. We're just bringing our macaroni back to the party. Working all that Velveeta through that macaroni. What's that doing? We're giving that a little bit of something to stick to. Do you want to use just Velveeta and make macaroni and cheese? No, that'd be disgusting. No, that just doesn't work. And I also know that there are people out there who don't think you should use the shredded cheese because it has flour and some other things in it that keep it separated. I've never had a problem with it, honestly. If you just keep it simple, that Velveeta is providing enough salt. Trust me, that little bit of Velveeta is providing enough salt. The butter is providing enough salt because I don't use unsalted butter. So it's not like you're going to have unseasoned mac and cheese. The cheese is what should be doing the seasoning. You don't need a bunch of other seasonings in mac and cheese if you just pick the right cheese, which in this case is a very sharp cheddar. So putting some of that cheddar in there. You want to keep this moving though, because you don't want your cheese to break, which is where it begins. That's why you need low heat. Like you can't do this on high heat. You don't want your cheese to break. No, I don't think we will use all that cheese. I think we got plenty right here. There it is, babe. That's what we were trying to make. A very southern, look at that, macaroni and cheese. We can turn that off. And we're gonna pull our potatoes because they've been under the broiler all this time. Okay, so if you don't want your macaroni and cheese quite that thick, I have it thick because of what we're gonna do to it in a minute. But if you don't like your macaroni and cheese quite that thick, go ahead, add a little bit more milk until it's about the consistency that you want it to be. Can we just take a moment to admire these beautiful, beautifully fried potatoes? So the guy in the video, he took the potato out of the potato and he mushed it up with some cheese and steak and put Philly cheesesteak on top of that potato. We're about to take that and bring it down south. So let me show you how we're gonna stack this potato. And here we go. We've got our two beautifully fried shells. They have a little bit of a layer in there. We're gonna fill them with the mac and cheese. All right, doesn't have to be a lot. Of course it does. We just load them up there. Man, look at that. Believe that? All right, not too much because it'll get cloying, but there we go. We've got mac and cheese down in a potato, double starch. I mean, if you think that's un-American, then you should probably leave here because that's the most American thing ever. Then we are gonna take some pulled pork. Now, I did not make this pulled pork. I will leave you my recipe for pulled pork, but this is one that I use kind of in a pinch when we're just doing like a quick sandwich night or something. This is actually Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 pulled pork packaged. You might think, well, that's not very southern not to make your own. Well, I would have made my own, but cooking a whole entire pork shoulder and trying to film that's kind of like watching paint dry. The very last thing we're putting on here is some beautiful coleslaw. This is shredded coleslaw, not the little cubey stuff that you get from Kentucky Fried Chicken. This is actually the shreds. There we are. This is the answer to the Philly cheesesteak potato. Now let's go see how it tastes. Okay, here we are, back in the worst lighting ever. Suggestion, steak knife. Okay, so there is the bite. That's it. Let's just see how this tastes. Yeah. I will put this up against any Philly cheesesteak potato ever in life. This is delicious. We have some flavors here that typically go together in Southern meals anyways. Pulled pork is often served with macaroni and cheese or with coleslaw. If you come down to visit and you stop somewhere and you get a hot dog that's all the way, you're going to get a hot dog with chili, onions, and coleslaw. So that whole idea of like tomato sauce, meat, and coleslaw goes together in so much of our cuisine down here. And this is no exception. I would thought that the macaroni and cheese would maybe be over the top and really like just make it too much, but it's not at all. It's actually really good. I hope you have fun hanging out this week with me to do Foodie Fridays. I'm gonna put some recipes for my pulled pork and my coleslaw down in the description. I hope you're having a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, or a great night, wherever you are. I hope you're taking care of yourself, and I hope you're taking care of each other. And as always, I'll see you in my next one. Bye, y'all.
Hey, let's just all get faded. Let's just all get faded.